The night outside Riverside Memorial Hospital was cold enough to sting, the kind of sharp, unforgiving chill that made most people hurry home with their collars up and their heads down. But Elena Ward walked out slowly, her steps steady, her shoulders heavy with exhaustion that went deeper than any 12-hour shift could explain. Her cheap jacket clung to her frame, doing little against the cold, and her old canvas bag bounced lightly against her hip as if reminding her it was still there. To anyone watching, she looked like any worn-down nurse at the end of another long, thankless day. Behind her, the nurses gathered near the doorway didn't bother lowering their voices. She moves like she's afraid of breaking something. One snickered, their laughter drifting into the parking lot. Average at best, another muttered. I wouldn't trust her with a bandage. The words carried clearly in the crisp air, and moments later Dr. Avery Miles stepped outside, shaking his head dramatically loud enough to make sure he was heard. I honestly don't know how this hospital still employs her, he scoffed. Some people just aren't built for pressure. Their laughter rolled across the pavement in careless waves. Elena didn't turn. Didn't react. Her breathing stayed even, her posture strangely firm for someone they believed so fragile. Then the ground trembled. A low, violent thunder pulsed through the night as rotor wash ripped dust across the lot. A Black Hawk helicopter descended between the parked cars, landing lights slicing through darkness. Nurses screamed. Papers scattered. The hospital entrance shook. From the aircraft, a squad of Navy SEALs poured out. Where is Lieutenant Commander Elena Ward? One of them barked. Everyone froze. Ted Marshall, the aging security guard, pointed with trembling uncertainty. Her. But she's just a nurse. They had no idea how wrong they were. Elena Ward was 29, but most days she felt older than the hospital walls she walked through. She carried herself with a quiet, deliberate calm that people constantly mistook for weakness. Her voice was soft, her tone steady, and she almost never raised it. In a place where loud meant confident and aggressive meant competent, her silence painted a target on her back. Dr. Avery Miles dismissed anything she said without listening. Whenever she gently offered a suggestion, he waved her off with a patronizing, stick to what you know. The other nurses followed his lead. She works like she's scared to make a mistake, they whispered. Always so quiet. It's like she's trying not to exist. Yet she was the first to volunteer for double shifts. The first to step forward when the trauma bay overflowed. The first called when a patient needed steady hands rather than loud orders. She never complained. Her quiet life outside work matched the one inside. A dimly lit apartment, a half-empty fridge, shelves lined with medical manuals. And hidden between two trauma guides inside her canvas bag was a folded, faded navy patch, its edges frayed from years of sand, sweat, and survival. Some nights, she reread her field notes, diagrams, and battlefield medical procedures. Techniques no civilian nurse should know. Techniques she had learned by necessity, by fire, by holding pressure on wounds under gunfire while waiting for extraction that arrived too late because once, long before Riverside, Elena Ward had worn a different title, Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, Combat Medical Specialist, Classified Extraction Unit, Helmand Province. She had survived a mission that was never supposed to fail, one where delays in support cost her team their lives. One man survived only because she refused to leave him, Captain Lucas Grant. She held his life together with her bare hands until help finally arrived. Afterward, after endless questioning and empty commendations from people who had never seen real combat, she walked away. She wanted a life where no one saluted her, where no one expected the impossible, where she didn't have to carry more ghosts, so she buried her records. Disappeared into civilian love. Became invisible, on purpose, but the truth never stays hidden forever. That night, tension had begun long before the Black Hawk arrived. In the emergency department, Elena noticed a mislabeled medication vial similar enough to pass as the correct one, but with a dosage high enough to kill. She stepped forward and warned Dr. Miles. He snapped at her, humiliated. Stick to your lane, Ward. Hours later, an older man arrived with shallow breathing, confusion, and a fading pulse. Everyone scrambled. Miles flipped through the chart, overwhelmed. Elena recognized the signs instantly. Check his glucose, she said softly. Miles ignored her. She did it anyway. Critically low, a push of dextrose stabilized the man within seconds. You don't get to make those decisions, Miles snapped. You took too long. She answered calmly. The room froze. Dr. Chris Nolan, a newer, quieter physician, watched her with growing suspicion. He noticed her hands. Her reflexes. Her breathing too steady, too controlled for someone working in a regular hospital. Later, a young woman arrived with internal bleeding. The team panicked. Elena used a pressure technique almost no nurse would know, one learned only on battlefields. She saved her. Miles exploded. You acted outside your scope. You could have made it worse. But she simply lowered her head and whispered, I'm sorry. Even though she wasn't, when her shift ended, she walked into the cold rain. The nurses mocked her behind her back. She didn't respond. She never did. At the bus stop, her canvas bag fell, spilling her hidden life onto the pavement. Navy flight logs, field manuals, and a faded rescue patch. Ted Marshall saw everything. Before she could gather the items, a distant sound reached her through the rain, a rhythmic thumping only someone like her recognized instantly. Helicopter. Her posture shifted instinctively. Ted saw it, the rigid spine, the squared shoulders, the alert stillness of a soldier returning to instinct. Moments later, the sky tore open. The Black Hawk dropped into the parking lot like a descending storm. Rotor wash blasted across the asphalt. Nurses scrambled for cover. Car alarms screamed. The SEALs fanned out in perfect formation. At their front, Commander Ryan Blake scanned the area with hard, focused eyes. Find Lieutenant Commander Elena Ward. Gasps erupted. Nurses pointed. Ted lifted a shaking hand. That's her. Dr. Miles burst out of the hospital, flustered and panicked. No, there's a mistake. That woman is barely competent. She's Commander Blake turned on him, voice deadly calm. She built half the emergency protocols your hospital pretends to understand. She's saved more men than you treated. Miles went silent. Elena's face tightened, panic flickering behind her eyes, but then something shifted. Her breathing slowed. Her spine straightened. The timid nurse was gone. Lieutenant Commander Elena Ward stood in her place. Captain Lucas Grant is dying, Blake said. He asked for you. Her world snapped into focus. What are his vitals? She demanded. Within seconds, she was issuing orders, commanding SEAL medics with crisp, flawless authority. They obeyed instantly, and the hospital watched in stunned silence as she stepped into the helicopter like destiny itself had returned for her. At the forward operating base, hot desert air hit the team as soon as the doors opened. Colonel James Reig froze when he saw her. Lieutenant Commander Ward, he whispered, voice breaking. We thought you were gone. Inside the triage tent, artillery thumps shook the ground. Elena stood over Captain Lucas Grant's failing body, gloves already red with blood. She operated with terrifying precision, guiding medics with sharp, rapid orders. Pressure here, retractor, clamp, sutures, stabilize. She found the hidden bleed by instinct alone, something the base surgeons couldn't do with all their equipment. She saved him. When she stepped back, exhausted but composed, Colonel Reig shouted, all SEALs and medical support attention. Over 30 operators snapped into formation. Boots together. Shoulders squared. Floodlights casting long shadows. Then every single one of them raised a salute, not to a nurse, not to a civilian, to a legendary lieutenant commander they thought they had lost. Elena returned the salute slowly, tears glistening but held in disciplined restraint. For the first time in years, she was seen. The next morning, the Black Hawk returned to Riverside Memorial, this time calm, deliberate, ceremonial. SEALs marched into the lobby. Staff stepped aside, whispering in startled Dr. Miles hid in a supply closet. No one missed him. Commander Blake announced loudly, Elena Ward saved a man's life under conditions most surgeons couldn't endure. The Navy owes her more than it can ever repay. Dr. Nolan stepped forward, voice soft. We owe you an apology. For all of us. We didn't see you. Don't apologize to me, Elena said gently. Change how you treat the quiet ones. Some people carry whole wars in silence. The words sank into everyone like a truth they should have known long ago. Then Elena reached into her bag, pulled out her resignation form, signed it quietly on the counter. No speeches, no bitterness, just peace. She walked out of the hospital doors not as the invisible nurse they ignored, but as the warrior she always was, Lieutenant Commander Elena Ward, a woman who saved lives long before anyone realized, a woman who would never fade into silence again.